Good morning, everybody. I'm Melissa Nielsen with Waldorf Essentials, and welcome to our Monday video. We're running a little behind today, so sorry. The youngest two Nielsen children are having sleep issues all of a sudden. I think they've had a fun long week with their brother, who was here visiting. My son was here visiting from Utah, and we haven't seen him in a year, so it was like, soak up all the Jacob we can. And so we had some late nights, and the two little ones are like, oh, wait a minute, we're not supposed to stay up late? Nope. So we're trying to get everybody back into sleep. So you can see these bags under my eyes this morning. We've been up with children. So forgive us for the delay, but here we are. Today we're going to talk about what to do when you have nothing in common with your children. Nothing. And sort of how to navigate that, and how to be graceful about it, and how to preserve the relationship and actually build the relationship. And so I thought we'd talk about some ways that we have done that. Welcome your comments as well. And being that this is a Waldorf centered forum, I'm probably going to say some things that are going to make you go, oh, really? But really. So I want to start by saying that Waldorf is an amazing, amazing place to be. So many moms are attracted to Waldorf because of, and I want to say there's two cameras, so I'm trying to look at both of you, but this is the one that's recording. And this one goes away after 24 hours, so forgive me, I'm looking at both. So we start Waldorf, often we're attracted to its cuteness, right? Like this stuff that's really cute and fun. And then we want to stay in that place because it nourishes us. And we love it. And we want them to stay in that place forever. And I have to tell you, there's a reason why they're right here right now. Because they're not being played with upstairs right now. And so, it's a transitionary place. And it starts to happen probably around 7. It gets really deep around 9. And at 11, you're like, who the heck is this kid? I don't know them. This isn't what I signed up for. I thought they would like fairies and gnomes forever. Why do they not like their wooden toys anymore? Why do they like things that I don't like? Why do they want to do things that I don't think are fun? Like you start to then question your whole existence as a Waldorf mom and go, wait a minute, this is not how I raised them. What is this child that all of a sudden wants to go to McDonald's? What is that all about? Eric is laughing. What is that all about? How do I navigate this space so that I feel like our values are presented, my values, which I hope are our values. I hope that your values are being shared with Dad. But I'm going to tell you, Dad is seeing it generally about the time that your kids are seeing it. Your dad's like, it's okay, Mom, you can come and grow up with us. And you are going to fight it, kicking and screaming. Totally understand. Soraya is our last child, and she's 7. And I'm like, really? You don't like these anymore? We've gone through the wooden toys, and because we have this Ostheimer collection that was fun to collect. It was fun to collect. It was as fun for me to collect them and hold them and love them as it was for her. And now I'm the only one holding them and loving them. And she's never been a doll kid, so she definitely has stuffed animal mama. And so there are for sure like transitions that you have to go through. But because I've been through it with 4 other kids, I know not to get my feelings hurt. I know not to be super sad about it. There are, as we've gone through the Ostheimer of things that were thinning out, I've pulled back things and held on to them that I know I want to keep for grandchildren, and I know I want to hang on to. As they start to go through these transitions, your job is to not be butthurt about it. It just is. It's just your job is to see it for what it is and go, oh, that's interesting. and just sort of, and I'm not saying you go, oh, let's go buy every plastic toy they have at Walmart. No, don't go there. In fact, I have always said, well, this does not sort of align with our values, but let's look at something else. Right now, Soraya really likes these tiny little fingerling things that drive me a little bit nuts. But I keep it at, well, if we're going to collect this, we're not going to collect this over here. So I've always been very careful about stuff because I definitely am not a stuff mom. Definitely about our family values align with experiences more than things. And even though we have things that we like, and I don't think having things is a bad thing, I definitely don't want it to be just about the things. So we try to really keep that in mind and really keep that at the forefront of like how we do things. And so like, for instance, when Samuel was of that space, he was like so loving the Ninja Turtles. Now I will back up and say, you've got to let dad's influence come in, and it is okay. So for those of us who have been following, or those of you who have been following, especially our journey with Super Sam, you'll know that his tiny little Incredible Hulk figure lived in the wooden mushroom house and cleaned house for the gnomes. You'll know that because I've said that before. And so I've always tried to keep a balance when it came to, no, you can't have that. And it wasn't like he had all of those. They were like, I can't even remember what they were called. Those little tiny, and I don't think they're out anymore. Those little tiny, they were little teeny little figures, and they were chunky, and they were of the superheroes. And so it wasn't like I said, oh yes, you can collect them all. But he had one or two like sprinkled in there. There was also a time where Eric had collected some vintage Tron figures, and Sam played with them, but he never had seen the movies. So he had all of the, he would play with them, and he would play like really fun with them and really nice with them. And it didn't matter to him that there were some bad guys. Now, of course, my big kids were like, hey, you can't do that. That's a bad guy. And he'd be like, what's a bad guy? So, it was very much about organic play. And I know a lot of you, either yourselves or your partners, have probably some toys that you've collected since you were children, and you're like, when can I bring these out? This is a great time. Some of you have already done it, totally okay. When can you bring these out to show them? And that's where I was getting with Super Sam and Ninja Turtles. So he has this thing for the Ninja Turtles since he was really small, and really wanting to I remember the conversation. He said, I really want to collect Ninja Turtles. And I said, well, you see this Lego thing over here? We have a lot of Legos. A lot of Legos. My son used to work at Legoland, so we got half off discount twice a year. So we had a lot of Legos. And so when we had this conversation, I said, well, you are welcome to collect minifigures and Legos, but we're not going to do both. So let's sort out which one you want. And at the time, he really wanted to collect minifigures and Legos. And so, which was totally fine with me. I'd already been down the Lego route with my big boys. They loved Legos, and I completely supported that, even though it wasn't something I was into, even though it was plastic, even though it was something that I wish that they didn't love so much. I tried not to ever do the shaming thing. It's really easy for us as moms to give disapproval and not realize that we're shaming. And so we have to be really careful. And I will say, I have been so guilty of it. And then I have to back up the truck and go, okay, wait a minute. That is not what I meant. I would not want somebody to say that about something that I love. Because you have to remember, even though you love fairies and gnomes and you're 30, or in my case, 45, and you love to knit, and your happy place is just sitting and relaxing and knitting and just sort of basking in that space, they grow, and that's okay. It's where they should be. They should be on this path of going and growing, and your job is to support it and to be excited about it And when they come to you and say, hey, Mom, I want to ride BMX. I remember Jacob saying that, and I was like, oh, really? Okay. We went every week to the BMX track. Sat next to my ex-husband. Hardest 2 years, I think. Do you think it was really hard? It was really hard. So we were not getting along at the time. In fact, active litigation, and I had to sit next to him and smile and cheer my son on because I was not there for this part with my ex-husband. I was there for my son, and I was there and I was excited for him. And those years were interesting years. But then at the same time, I was sort of laughing with him this weekend as we were talking about, my little ones were talking about Halloween costumes, and I said, "Do you remember the year you were a soldier from King Leonidas's army?" He was like, "Yeah, that was in 5th grade. That was when we were studying Greece. I rocked that." And he did. He totally rocked that costume. Now, keep in mind, we lived in Idaho, so he couldn't be naked like the rest of King Leonidas's army and just wear, a little like diaper thing. So he had to wear like I have a picture of it somewhere. It was so good. He was so into it. And he was into it because I brought him this amazing living curriculum where he was excited about it. And then he said to me, "Remember when I was all into Lewis and Clark?" And he was Lewis and Clark for like a year. He carried around a little notebook, and he had his his like explorer stuff, and he was all about it. It was when we lived in Idaho, and the museum up there had a Lewis and Clark exhibit because it was on the trail, the Lewis and Clark Trail. And so there were places there locally that we could go to, and he could live this fantasy of being Lewis and Clark. He had so much fun. And so those are the moments that you have to grasp and have fun with. And then you have to allow for that difference, for that space to come in, for them to be excited about something else. So for Jacob, it was BMX. Harry was definitely like Legos and robotics, and he was very much into that. But I'm going to tell you something, and this is the part where you might go, okay. I did something this year that I've never done, like ever. And I think I've told a couple of my coaching clients on the phone, and they've been like, oh, really? You do that? I started playing Mario Kart this year. Why? Because my little kids really like Mario Kart. And now I have to tell you, when they go to bed at night, I play Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker because I think Toadette is the cutest, cheekiest little thing ever. She like really belongs up here with her gnome siblings. She really does. Now, why are you shocked? Well, because video games and Waldorf don't go together, right? Well, they do when your kids get older. If you have kids that are that they're lit up about that, I'm not saying yes, that's what you need to do 24/7. Of course not. And that is not something that happens here. We played more last week because my son was here, and we did a lot of cooperative stuff. And that's what we do. When we're together, often we'll do cooperative stuff. But again, it's cooperative. We're together, we're doing cooperative stuff. Eric has this fun game called Pac-Man Versus, where you take turns being Pac-Man and turns being the ghost. Lots of fun. We also play board games. We also go on walks together, hikes together, we go to Disneyland together. We have fun. And we have fun that is not necessarily centered on something that I always like. So when you have kids that are growing and getting their own opinions, you have to come to a place of, I've got to get interested in what they like. So I could sit and just watch my kids play Mario Kart. But man, when I said, hand me that controller, they were like, what? Crazy lady? Are you feeling okay? I just remember they were like, what? You did what? Because it seems like I did it with you. You got it out for me before. Because I did. Listen, I'm choleric. I got to know things. I cannot not know. So I had to play it by myself before I played it with kids. Questions?
Oh, just a few comments. Karen Snizek says, single mom over 50, son is 10 most teen. We still talk about the we people, but are going forward on the science and STEM projects. Nate had all the Thomas Train things, and they are now in the background. Thankfully, he isn't a collector of things, and he knows I hate Legos. My son and I go out.
I hate walking on Legos.
She says, my son and I go out and play Pokemon Go together.
I tell you, I hate Pokemon Go, but you know what? Different strokes, different folks. My kid, that came out and I was like, no, I think we'll do something else. But guess what? That had been something that they were like, I've got to do it. I know Kelly played Pokemon Go. She'll tell you all about it.
And then Becca Joy says, my kid's got a Disney character playset and a plastic battery-powered pet carrier. Christmas last year, some relatives, and they have played with them hardcore all year. I'm finally realizing the fascination is not going to wear off before Christmas comes around.
And you know, the fascination is probably not about the fact that they're Disney characters. The fascination is the fact that they're little. And that's one thing that's always important to remember. Little kids love little things. It's really easy for them to, I'm going to make them all fall. It's really easy for them to hold something like this in their hand and carry it around and put it in their pocket. And so that's what they're craving. They're craving something that they can act things out with. So if you've got kids that are like into things like that, make some gnomes and stick some gnomes in there too. I mean, that's always been what I have been trying to do, especially with the younger two. I was way more strict with the older ones, way more strict. And it caused some problems. And it wasn't until like later in my parenting with them that I was like, you know what, I need to chill out. I need to chill out, and because you don't want to alienate your kids. You want to have kids that you always have fun with. And to tell you, they like some crap that I really don't like. But I go, so tell me about that. I asked some questions. Okay.
Jamie Bennett, she says, I recently brought out my 30-year-old Nintendo Entertainment System.
Oh.
I thought it was the best ever. They now play Zelda, and it promotes teamwork. We also love Tetris and Mario Brothers. My kids are almost 13 and 8.
You know, that's a really that's a really funny one, because Eric was an old school gamer. I was not. So I was a single child living with my mother, and I think I played Wheel of Fortune on the TRS-80 we had, and that was like it. So that was not a big thing for me, but neither was TV. So I lived in a house where that was not the big thing. But Eric was raised on that, and so many of our viewers, our friends, our fans were raised on that, or at least your partners were, or something. And so you're trying to figure out, like, how do you balance that? This is how you balance it. You've got to have a bit of both. And being in the Waldorf Pure Place is a beautiful place to be, especially when they're little, but they grow.
Bella Tara says, what about the addiction part of screens? How would you get around?
Oh, so see, I don't play the addiction game, because they are addicting. They are addicting. And so we have major rules about screens.
Yeah, Karen.
Major rules.
Karen Snizek says we have set times.
Yep, exactly. So we have major rules about screens. We have full days that the screen doesn't come on for anything. Like anything, even for Eric and I. And Eric and I recently moved the TV out of our bedroom, and we had it in there. It wasn't like we watched it a lot, but it was like in there. And then the Roku stick remote died, and we were like, oh, okay. So we don't even have that in there. There are days that it does not come on. There are sometimes weeks that it does not come on. There are sometimes weeks that we don't play any video games, for sure. Mm-hmm. And then, like, for instance, so last week my son was here, and because we had been preparing, like, for the Pac-Man thing. I'm gonna put this guy back. We had the Pac-Man thing that we wanted to play, and there were some fun things we wanted to play together that we had been waiting. And Nintendo has this nice thing now, if you have a Switch, where the entire family can be on the same plan. So you can play some cooperative games together online. So that's fun too. But we have parameters. When my big kids were little, it was only between like 4 and 6 p.m. So 4 o'clock until dinner, and then it had to go off.
It has parental controls. You can lock people.
Oh yes, the Switch does. Yes, it does. That's nice. Yeah. That's a nice thing about the Switch. And the Wii had some parental controls too when we had the Wii.
Yeah, there's ways to lock people.
So I totally appreciate that. Also, when it comes to gaming, if you have a tantrum, guess what? That means we're not playing it for a week. That's just my rule. If you have a tantrum when it's done, so sorry. Means you've had too much. Means you can only have smaller segments of it. Also might mean you're too young to play. Just putting that out there. If they cannot regulate that piece, then I will say, so Soraya's 7. It's only been in the last 6 months that we have allowed more. So when she was younger, they always played when she was asleep or when she was not around. She wanted an opportunity to be in there and play with them. And so when we purchased the Switch, that was part of what our goal was. So part of that is only E-rated games, which irritates Samuel. But Samuel plays, Battlefield with Dad when our Battlefront,
No, it's
Battle
a
with
Star
names.
Wars game.
Star Wars game with Dad when we're not around. And he's 12, almost 12 and a half. So we are very careful about that, because when people say, oh, I don't know about being Waldorf Pure. I'm going to tell you, here's my Waldorf Pure speech. I am Waldorf Pure. I understand development. I understand what's right when, and I live that. So we keep that in mind at all turns. And in doing that, we are incredibly careful with what they watch, with what they play, with what they're exposed to, especially before they're 9, especially there. You want to keep them in that happy, magical place as long as possible. So in Soraya's case, she's like, Captain Toad, we're having fun with that, trying to save Toadette. And then Toadette gets kidnapped, or then Toad gets kidnapped and Toadette's trying to save. It's fun, and for her, especially for her, so she's got some stuff going on, some like spectrum stuff going on. It's very problem solving for her. And where there's a lot of problem solving games for older kids, there's not a lot for kids that are her age. So we're really careful. And if I see any signs of addiction, and signs of addiction will be tantrums, not being able to transition, talking about it incessantly. All of those things are signs of addiction. So you want to be careful about that, because like I said, I just don't play that game here. I go, oh, this tells me you're not ready. And so then we back off and we set it aside. And we have definitely been down that road. But then, to sort of take this full circle to what your kids enjoy and what your kids have fun with. The reason why I even brought up the fact that I picked up the Switch this year was because it was something my kids were interested in. And I want to spend time with them. And I want to know, okay, what is it about this stupid looking game that is fun? And I have been I've been watching from the sidelines. Eric likes to kill Lara Croft on a regular basis. And so I've been watching him do that for, 13 years now. And he finds new and amazing ways to kill her on a regular basis. But he's also, he has fun. And I'll sit and knit while he plays. It's about supporting him because I want to be with him and have fun with him. That doesn't mean he's playing every night. Doesn't mean that I would say he probably plays less than 4 hours a week. Less than that. Because we spend time together. He knows how to balance. If you have a partner that is out of balance with that, it's a conversation you have to have. If you are going to spend time interested in what they love, they've got to reciprocate. And guess what happens with your kids when you do that? They go, hey, Mom, what are you knitting? Hey, Mom, what are you doing? Hey, Mom. When you put interest in them, it reciprocates. My kids know. I'm always amused at my big kids when they get me a gift. I go, what? Really? You're listening. They're listening. They know. And it's a very fun, bittersweet place to be as they're sort of growing up, and you have to shift from being in this early childhood place where everything is simple and the biggest thing you're doing is worrying about who's having a meltdown and tantrum because they're hangry. Guess what? When they get bigger, you still got to worry about who's having a meltdown and a tantrum because they're hangry. Like I'll say to Harry, hey, you seem really mad. Are you hungry? You're 21 years old. Do you need some food? Here's a cheese stick. But it's all about sort of building that relationship, keeping it strong, keeping it alive as they're growing, and being able to preserve yourself too. Doesn't mean you have to give up family values. And I'll go back to my comment about McDonald's, because they're all wanting to, like, what's that? What's that? Johnny's family eats there. Like it's it, because as they're older and they start to learn about more people, friends, they start to get more friends. Maybe you've got kids on a soccer team or a baseball team, or something like that, where they are, or like our kids are in karate, where they are around other kids. And so they're going to start asking those questions. Does that mean I'm going to McDonald's? But I will say, well, this is what they have there. You know that place that we go to, Burger Lounge? We have this great place that's like grass-fed beef and it's amazing burgers. They basically do the same thing, only at Burger Lounge, it's not so bad for you. My kids will be like, oh, okay. So you get to take the stigma off of why it is that they're so attracted. I've also done, well, you know what? Let's go and let you just feast. And then they all feel like crap afterwards. And they're like, oh, I hurt. Oh, my stomach hurts. That's what happens when you eat there. Then they understand. So definitely you want to meet them where they are. You want to stay close to where they are, because the best way for you to ruin or alienate yourself from your child is to be like, nope, we're not going there. Or to make like crazy hard rules. That's also a really great way to get yourself labeled as one of those weird homeschoolers. Don't do that. I was talking to my son this weekend, and he and I are going to do a video together. We didn't get to do it while he was here, so we're going to do a Zoom chat and film it and put it up. But what we did was we had this conversation about, like what is your perception now of homeschooling? Because he went to public school in 10th grade. What were things that that you wish that were different? He was a very social child, and he struggled making friends, even though he was super social. And so for him, his transition was it wasn't very hard. It wasn't very hard. And he asked me, he said, do you recommend to the people that you work with that if their kids want to go when they're in high school or middle school, that you let them go? And I said, yes, but we have this conversation. What are you trading for? So are you trading, you want them to go so that they can go and have the experience. Don't think that is going to make it any easier at home. And he even said, if I hadn't, because he was also, I will say, my hardest kid homeschooling. But he said, the things that you taught me about following through, he said, if you hadn't made me do those things, I would never have survived. He said, I was on top of it more than my friends. I knew that when the teacher said something, he knew to respect the teacher because he had respected me. So when the teacher said, you have to have this done by Friday, he's like, okay, fine, I'm going to go do it by Friday. So he went through and was able to transition well. I said, what do you wish that we had prepared you for that you maybe weren't prepared for? And the only thing he said was like Common Core math, which he spent 9th grade homeschooling, but he lived at my ex's house, so he came back and forth. So in going to public school was then like it was a quick decision on his part. We were moved in California, and we had this conversation about like, what are we doing? And he said, I think I want to go try it. So it was not an opportunity where we had 6 months to prepare him. So this was him going in with like no preparation, and he did just fine. But he did just fine because of the kind of homeschooling we do, because of the fact that we've always kept good rhythm. We've always kept good lessons. We've always, he knew things that his friends didn't know. He knew how to write. He knew, he said, I would blow my English teachers away because I would hand them the paper and there wouldn't be a whole lot of correction. He read books and stories that he had already read at home. So he had, he said something about his 11th grade English teacher wanted him to read Huck Finn. He's like, seriously, I read it in 5th grade. All right, I'll read it again. Because in that case, his teacher wanted him to have a different perspective of it. You have a totally different perspective of it when you're 17 than you do when you're 11. So, when it comes to these relationships, You've got to be tight. Got to be tight. Find ways. If you're feeling the pull with your kids now, you've got to figure out how to get it back together. So you've got to think about what is it that I'm interested in or that they're interested in and go find it out. Had a dear friend of mine say, I don't understand why she's not anything like me. I said, that's the point. She's not supposed to be anything like you. We are not raising clones of ourselves. We're not. That would be so boring. So boring. They're not going to be clones of you. You hope that you are raising them with values that help them see the world somewhat from the way you see it in regards to values and morals and things like that. When it comes to what they're into and excited about, they are going to have their own opinions. That's great. You should celebrate it and have fun together. For instance, I'm going to tell you, and then we're going to close up. Do you have any questions over there that I have missed?
Nope.
Okay.
We're good.
This is the last thing I'm going to say. So Samuel is in 6th grade. We are about to do a diorama of the Colosseum, provided we can find all the parts in San Diego for this diorama. I will take lots of pictures. So we're going to build this diorama, and we're discussing the finer points of it the other day, and like how it's going to be. And he's asking me all these scale questions. I'm like, seriously, I don't know. I don't know how big the columns are that you can find at the hobby store. We'll have to see when we get there. He's like, well, because here's the thing that I want to do. He's like into model kit building, and he has these Gundam models from Japan. He's like, I want them to fight in the arena. I was like, really? That's what we're talking about? You want to know the scale so you know how they can fight in the arena once we're done? Okay, but you're excited about building it. He's excited about learning about it. He's like, yeah, but Mom, that'll be like after we're all done with it and you had plenty of time to take pictures. Then I can destroy it. It's like, okay, totally fine. I gotcha. You've got to like lighten up and have fun with it. That's what makes homeschooling fun. That's what makes homeschooling with Waldorf like amazing fun. You are giving them opportunities they wouldn't have in other homeschooling because of the way we teach. And you are giving yourself an opportunity to really know your child and to have fun with them and for them to really dig into the material. So in closing, I just want to say, have fun. Figure out ways to really have fun with your child and like the things that they like, even if it's something that is totally like gag to you, because there are some things where I go, oh no, I can't go down that road. Take a deep breath, Mom. You can do this. I want you all to have a wonderful week. We have some fun webinar announcements that will be going out later today. Oh, and if you missed, we are doing a knit along and craft along. We usually do a knit along in October, and I got started late. And so we're doing a knit along and craft along because I know there are people that don't knit, but they want to they want some accountability for their holiday crafting. And actually in the group, we're going to start today. And I will put it up for my Instagram followers. I will put it in our link tree in our profile this morning. So you'll have an opportunity to get that. For our Facebook viewers and those watching on YouTube on the download, you can grab it off of our Facebook. You can also search WE, I think it's just W, like Waldorf Essentials, KAL, and you'll find it there. And there's a Facebook group for it. Now I'm also going to tell you, for all of you who are like, I hate Facebook, I'm so done with Facebook, I'm not even on there anymore. There's this, did you know that you can put groups on your home screen on your phone? Did you know that you can do that and you don't even ever have to even go to Facebook? You don't even have to go to Facebook and then go to the groups. There's a way that you can put the icon on your home screen. So it's a little bit different for iPhones. It's easy if you're on an Android phone. Go to the group. There's a little eye up in the corner. Click on the eye, and there's just a spot that says Add to Home Screen. It's a little bit different for iPhones. I think you have to go into Safari to the group and then add it to your home screen from there. But the golden thing is, that means you don't have to be on Facebook. It means you just, especially for all my Instagram followers who are like, I already defected from Facebook. You can do both. You can then just put it on your home screen and you can gloriously miss the entire feed. You don't have to see any of the ads or any of the political garbage that make you hate people that you are supposed to love. All of those things that we hate Facebook for, you don't have to see any of it. You can just go straight to your groups. So, and they can put them in a nice, neat little folder if you're an Android user on your phone. It's really nice. So I'm just sort of letting you know, if you're groaning at me, another Facebook group, honestly, if somebody came up with a real, true, viable option that was not, it was not Facebook, I'd be like all for it, but it's not. So anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you next week. Next week we're talking about late October festivals. So we're going to talk about, and that was actually supposed to be last week's, but somehow I mixed up the dates, and anyway. But we're going to talk about Halloween, Sugar Plum Fairies, Dia de los Muertos a little bit, even though I am not from Mexico, so I cannot speak on it with authority. I will tell you what we do as friends and neighbors of Mexico and how we have incorporated some things. Also, we've always sort of celebrated All Souls Day on November 1st, so we'll talk about that too. So that is next week. So join us then, same time, same place, and hope you have a wonderful week. Bye, everybody.